As of this moment, this podcast is on double secret probation. This week we ask, is Animal House a good movie? Welcome back to But Is It a Good Movie? Where we go through my movie collection one by one every week to find out if that week's choice is a good movie and should be kept in the collection, or if it's a bad one and we should throw that bad boy out. I'm your host Ish, and with me is my co-host Nick.
That's me.
Alright Nick, right off the bat, as someone who's seen this movie before, has your view on it changed at all since your first viewing? And second question, how rowdy were your years in college compared to this movie?
I watched it years ago in college, and I think I liked it more than this time. But my college life did not live up anywhere close to this. Definitely drank and went to parties, but did not do anything of the sort of this movie.
No toga parties?
No toga parties, no rush parties. I've been to like one frat, and they were nothing like this.
All right.
But I have met people who like expected their like frat party experience to be like this.
All right.
Which I think is pretty funny because I'm just like, this is such like well, to me it feels like such a blown out stereotype of like the fraternity party and stuff like that. I feel like they do go crazy, but not this crazy.
And has your opinion on the movie changed at all since your first viewing?
Yeah, I thought it was better last time I watched it, I think. This time I watched it sober. Maybe that could have been like a thing because I definitely watched it like really drunk the first time.
This does seem like a really good drunk movie.
Yeah, because like when you're sitting there sober and like you're like, oh man, like I don't really want to watch the parts where like there's not a lot of crazy stuff happening on screen. You know, maybe if you're drunk, you kind of like go past them faster.
Yeah. All right. So this week we watched National Lampoon's Animal House. It's a raunchy comedy from 1978 starring John Belushi. I'm not really that familiar with National Lampoon movies as a whole. I've only seen this one and Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of like the vacation movies, but I kind of forgot that this one was National Lampoon until like we said we're gonna watch it, and I just like gave a quick Google search to it, and I was like, oh yeah, National Lampoon.
Yeah, I think this was one of National Lampoon's first movies. This movie is credited for modern comedy movies as a whole, I think. Because of this, we got Ghostbusters, and we got Caddyshack, and we got all these other movies. Mm-hmm. And National Lampoon's Animal House pioneered this new age of comedy, and like all these writers and comedians were influenced by these movies as a whole. I don't know if knowing that changes your thought on the movie as a whole, or did you kind of try to keep it just as, I'm just going to judge this movie as a movie and not by its influence on pop culture as a whole?
I feel like you can judge a movie like you judge a movie by like it being like a stepping stone for a genre. Like, yeah, like this is definitely like, it's an older movie. It's almost 50 years old, and it definitely has like paved the way for like comedies and stuff like that. In some aspects, you know, you could see a lot of ties to it in other movies that you just mentioned. But I feel like judging that movie as like what it's done for the genre is way different than judging the movie as like you're watching it in 2022. Because like, I don't know, standards have changed and humor has changed a lot. I definitely don't think it is a movie that should not have ever been made. Or do I think it is a bad movie? I'm just like, I don't know, just couldn't really get into it this time. You know, no harm, no foul, really.
Yeah, so a quick rundown on the movie. Takes place at Faber College, where one frat house is so unhinged and will take pretty much anyone who wants to deal with them, right? And that frat house has to deal with the stick-in-the-ass Omega House and their one true foe, Dean Wormer.
Yes.
So the movie opens up
immediately with the rush party, which
yeah,
I didn't even know that's what these were called, actually. Mm-hmm. So it's like, basically, it's like all the fraternities are like, basically, it's like open house, essentially. Like people who are new to the college come in and they try to like get to know the people in the frat to kind of join, you know, to like get the pledge.
Yeah, we meet our two freshman characters, which are Larry and Kent, later known as Pinto and Flounder.
Yes, I only know them by their nicknames at this point.
And they're trying to get into the Omega House originally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they go in and They let Larry in.
And they like want to close Kent out like
Yeah.
almost
They
immediately.
slam the door in his face and they're like, oh, you're here too. So they get their name tags and they get escorted into the room with all the other like snuck up, like pretentious people are at. And they get put in the corner.
Yeah, they get introduced to like everybody. Like it's really funny how they did it because like they introduce everyone to like these like higher up members in the fraternity, and then they bring them over to the couch where like all the losers, quote unquote, are sitting.
Yeah.
And then like when Kent tries to break away from that and he makes it back around, they still lead him back to the couch, and it's like, oh, you know them? Perfect. You'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, the so-called losers are, I think it's like a Hindu kid, a Jewish kid,
And then possibly a blind kid in a wheelchair.
yeah. Like, so it already says a lot about a mega house, right? Like who they want in their frat versus who they think are undesirables.
Oh yeah.
So right after that, the two freshmen are like, this is not it for us, right? So they bounce. And Kent's talking to Larry. He's saying, oh, let's try Delta House. My brother wasn't Delta, so I'm a legacy. They have to let us in. And I'll put a good word in for you, right? And Delta House is right next door to Omega House. They go up to Omega House, and a mannequin just crashes through the window.
Yeah, I think that same window gets broken like 4 times.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like it like how like the movie's sectioned in acts. It's like, oh, what came out of the window this time?
Yeah, right? It's just like a decrepit old house, and you meet John Belushi's character, Bluto.
Yeah, he's outside, he's taking a piss, and they're like, "Is this Delta House?" And he turns around, and he pisses all over their shoes.
Yeah, right? And he's like, yeah. So they go into the house, and a beer bottle gets tossed at them.
Yeah.
And like crashes against the door, and he's like, oh, grab some booze. It's free.
Yeah. And so like Larry looks pretty like he's kind of into it a little bit, and Kent's almost like it looks a little mortified. Like he's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know? But they both still look pretty out of place. Like they just did not expect this to be on the other side of the door.
Yeah, and while they're in the Delta house, that's where we meet most of the main cast.
Yeah.
We see D-Day roll up the stairs on his motorcycle. Otter and Boone are in their room.
Which are like the two like higher up people in the frat, I'd say.
Yeah. And then we meet Katie, which is Boone's girlfriend, downstairs serving drinks. And she's a little pissed because Boone's not hanging out with her, right?
Yeah. And then Boone's upstairs hanging out with Otter. And then he's like, I'm not going down there because Katie's mad at me.
Yeah, right? And he just is oblivious as to why. And we also meet Hoover, which I think is the chairman of the frat.
Yeah,
and he's telling them to like go make their rounds. Like you guys are like the main ones.
Yeah, he's almost like the lawyer to Delta House. And like Boone is like the face, not Boone. Otter's like the face of it.
Yeah.
And Boone's his like right hand man.
Yeah. Most of Delta House is kind of grungy and
yeah, like we don't like get names to everybody we see in Delta House. You just know that they're all like degenerates.
Yeah, but Otter carries himself in a way that I feel like he might come for money.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like the way like you see some of them dressed, they don't look like they're scum. Like they actually like, look like they're very presentable. But like that kind of gives off like the college vibe though.
Yeah.
Because I've met so many people that like when you meet them, they're A-class bullshitters. And they make you think that they're like above you when really they might be below you on the same level. So I got that whole vibe perfectly from these guys.
Otter's like the perfect face for Delta House because he just
God.
BS his way into anything, right? Oh, and then after that, they decide who gets let into the frat.
Yeah, they have like a projection slideshow, and like they keep putting everyone's like name up, and everyone's like drinking, and then it's like they're like, I'll say for this one, say I, and then like nay. And then that's when we get Kent's name. Well, his face pops up, and I was like, "Boo! Fuck that guy!" Like,
yeah, because he's a total dweeb, right?
Yeah, he's just like, well, like as Omega House put it, Larry is a wimp, and Kent was the blimp.
Yeah.
So even Delta House doesn't want him.
So right after that scene, we cut to Dean Wormer's office, who is just hating Delta House and everything they stand for, right? He hates them. They have multiple violations and low GPAs, and that's where we meet one of our main antagonists, which is Greg, the Omega president.
Is he Niedermeyer?
No, Niedermeyer is the other guy.
Okay.
I think Greg, his last name is Marmalade.
Oh, okay.
And the dean is telling Greg that he needs to find some way to get rid of Delta House permanently.
Yeah.
But I feel like, because Dean asked Greg a question, he's like, oh, which is the worst frat in this campus? And Greg's like, oh, that's kind of hard to say.
Yeah. I think he's definitely trying to like give off like, he's like, oh yeah, like, when you look at all the houses and their merits and stuff like that, like trying to like be very like politically like correct, I guess.
Yeah.
He's like, cut the shit. We all know it's Delta House. And he's like, yes, sir.
Yeah, so even though Greg is the head of Omega House, when you first meet him, he doesn't come off as too bad compared to some of the other people, which follows with Flounder, which is Kent. We see him in a field with other ROTC cadets.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where we meet Niedermeyer.
Yeah, he's the guy on the horse.
Yeah, he rolls up on his horse, and he's just talking shit to Kent the whole time. And from the distance, we see Otter and Boone observing this, right? And they're like, oh, no one treats our frat boys like this, except for us.
Yeah, I think they use, yeah, we're the only ones that could talk to our pledges that way.
Yeah.
So they roll up with golf clubs and golf balls, and they're going to take pod shots and try to hit Niedermeyer while he's like doing like their, I don't know, like their drills or whatever.
Yeah, so Boone misses all his shots, and Otter takes over, right? He hits the ball, hits the horse in the ass, horse goes wild, and then hits Niedermeyer in the head, which makes him fall over and get dragged by the horse.
Yeah, which actually was like a pretty funny scene. Because like when they're just like taking the shots with the golf club, it was like really funny because how casual they're speaking about it. They're like, oh, sliced it. And it's like, no, you need to carry your shoulder through with the ball. And it's like, they're not even playing like golf. I just like that scene a lot. That was funny.
Yeah, everything about Delta House, mainly the two main guys that run it, protrude coolness out of them.
Yeah, and like they don't give off the vibe that all they do is just like drink and like don't do anything else.
No, yeah, they come off as like respectable almost.
Yeah, because like they're wearing like nice clothes all the time. They have golf equipment.
Yeah,
like I don't know anyone who's like drinking every weekend is rolling up with like nice clothes and golf equipment.
Yeah, especially compared to Bluto
and D-Day and the rest of them that like literally look like they're wearing like sweatpants that they've been like that's their only pair they had since they were 14. They have like cutoffs, stains all over them.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like the polar opposites of like what the frat house truly is, and then like the face of the frat house.
So Niedermeyer, before he gets dragged by the horse, he notices that Kent. I'm just gonna call Kent Flounder from now on because I keep switching back and forth. So I'm gonna stick with their nicknames. So Flounder gets chewed out because he has his frat pin on him. So Niedermeyer tells them to go to the stables and clean up shit afterwards. And he's like, you better not have that pin with them. So presumably Otter and Boone send Bluto and D-Day to help out Flounder get back at Niedermeyer by kidnapping his prized horse and putting it in the dean's office. And while they put the horse in the office, we see that D-Day and Bluto are scheming a little bit, and they want to have a little fun with their new pledge, right? So they give him a gun, and they're like, take the horse out.
Yeah, it's like who do you hate more, Niedermeyer or the horse? And he's like, well, I don't want to kill the horse, but that's the best way to get back at Niedermeyer is to kill the horse.
Right? They send him into the office to kill the horse, but we know that the gun is only full of blanks.
Yeah.
So we just see Flounder writing this, not knowing if he should go with it. So he decides to just shoot the gun up in the air.
Yeah.
Which in turn gives the horse a heart attack.
Which, like, I totally forgot about that scene. It happened super early on, but I don't know why I forgot about it. It's very memorable now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, like, the next day after the Delta boys run out of there because it's like, oh shit, we just killed a horse in the dean's office.
Yeah, because they're outside, they hear the gun go off, and they're laughing to themselves, like, oh my God. But then they hear a loud crash, and they run in, and they're like, I thought you said it was full of blanks. He goes, I didn't even shoot him. He goes, you gave that horse a heart attack.
And they're like, holy shit.
He was like, we gotta go.
So they get out of there, and the next morning we see the dean's talking to the mayor in his office, right? It's just very casual. And the whole time I was thinking, I was like, oh, are they not going to acknowledge the horse that's dead in his office? But then the camera pans out and we see some guy just measuring the horse.
Trying to take it out.
Yeah.
While they're having this like really serious conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what does the guy decide to do to get rid of the horse?
Yeah, like he measures like the hooves and he's like, I can't take it out. And he comes back in the last shot of the scene, he has a chainsaw revving.
So already from like these few scenes, I already knew I was in for something, right? I've never seen this movie before, and I was like, all right, they kill a horse, and they're just gonna chop it up. I was like, okay, this is definitely something different than what I'm used to. Next day, I guess later on that day, we're at the cafeteria, or the mess hall, and Otter's trying to get with some preppy girl named Mandy.
Yeah, who is tied to a mega house.
Somehow.
But you can tell that there might be like history between like them because like the way he comes over, she's like, oh, not him again.
Yeah, which I think Mandy might be Greg's girlfriend.
I think so, yeah.
Because a couple of the Omega boys show up and they're just like egging Otter on. But in the background we see Bluto going through the line and like just piling his tray full of food, taking bites out of sandwiches, putting it back.
Yeah, that scene goes on for a lot longer than I thought they were gonna do it for, because it's almost like, so like he does like the whole like he like moves his tray across, he's taking everything, he's like taking bites of shit, shoving shit in his pocket and stuff, and then he like picks up his tray, and then there's like another like wall of food they could put his tray on, and he just continues to do the same thing again, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like, can we hurry this part up?
Yeah, and I don't know what was going to happen there. I'm assuming it's all free, because it doesn't show him pay for it.
Yeah. Now, it kind of looks like a cafeteria out on my campus, which was like, once you swipe to get in, it's like a buffet. You can eat and stay as long as you want.
Got it.
But there were times where it's like, you do just load up a tray and you pay for it. So, I'm not sure. Knowing how Delta House is, if you had to pay for it, they weren't going to anyway.
No, so he goes up to the table with Otter and the rest of the Omega boys, and he just starts to be obnoxious about everything, right? Stuffs his face full of food, and he was like, hey, what am I?
Well, the girl goes, you are a pig pig.
Yeah.
And then he looks at her and goes, well, guess what I am?
Stuffs his face full of food, and he's like, I'm a zit, get it?
And it's like food flies all over them, and they're like, fucking get them. And so he leads them on like a chase around like the cadet boys. Niedermeyer is in like a neck brace after his horse incident.
Yeah, he's just chased around. And I feel like this scene's trying to show us, it's like, oh, that Bluto's kind of a cool kid. Look at him like running circles around like the preppy frat boys.
Yeah, and like he's like, he does not look like he would be in shape for this, like in the slightest.
No, so in order to get away from them, he starts a food fight.
Yeah, which never been a part of a food fight ever. Thank God.
No, well, why would you even want to start a food fight in college, right? It's like you pay for all that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've also never wanted to throw my food at anybody before, and I never want to be hit by anyone's food. So a food fight always like immediately grosses me out. Don't know why.
Yeah. And this whole movie has this kind of back and forth where I feel like you see what Delta House is doing and are like, oh, they're kind of obnoxious, right? But then the Omega people do something that's even worse. So out of like the two evils, I guess you side with Delta House a little bit more.
Yeah, because like they're framed as almost like the little underdogs of like the Faber College.
Oh, totally.
It's like you're gonna root for them ultimately.
Yeah, so following after that, I think the Omega Boys have have it out for the Deltas now.
Yeah. Now, when is the scene where Bluto goes to the female frat house? Well, like the female sorority house.
That happens, I think, around here.
Around here is because Mandy and Greg go out on that date, and we get like 2 instances of their little date. They like drive their Corvette up to like the
Lover's Peak.
Yeah, Lover's Peak, and she's just like, and like you don't see anything right away, but they're just talking, and you can see Greg is just like thinking about like how does he fuck or like get back at the Delta boys. And Mandy's just giving him a hand job, and she's like, "Is this supposed to be this soft?" Like, which I thought that was pretty funny. And she's frustrated. She's like, "You fucking like, I'm done trying."
Yeah, we see that she had plastic gloves on her.
That was so funny.
Like the most sterile of hand jobs, which I think there's like a joke earlier on, right, where some of the Delta people say that Greg is supposed to be gay.
Oh, okay, I think I missed that.
It's like when they first enter the frat house, and Katie's like, "Yeah, there are a couple homosexuals."
Oh, okay.
And at first, I thought they were referring to Otter and Boone until I found out that Boone is her boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
So I think they were referring to the Omega people.
Gotcha. Okay, I think I might have missed that part.
But yeah, then right after that, Greg decides to drop Mandy off, and we see Bluto kind of sneaking around the house of the girls, the sorority house.
And he finds a ladder conveniently outside, and he like hoists the ladder up, and he climbs up, and he just sees that the sorority girls are having a naked pillow fight.
Yeah, because that's what girls do.
Oh yeah, always. So like Mandy gets back, and they're like, "How was your date?" And she's like, "It was all right. Good night." And then like she goes into one, like it'd be like the opposite bedroom. So then he's like, Bluto has his ladder, and he's like jumping with it over, like just smashing into the house.
Yeah, he's just like against the house.
And it's like when he first rolls up to the window, he's like right up against the glass. And it's like, I get it. Like, they're not supposed to see him. But he's clearly in view at all times. And he's making so much noise that I thought they were going to see him or they're going to hear him at some capacity.
No, I think that was one of the funniest things to me. Not that he was like peeping at them, but just the fact that he was slamming this ladder against their wall and their windows. And no one paid attention to that.
I don't know. No one was curious of the noise at all.
No. So next, and then after that, Bluto, I guess, just like passes out because he falls backwards off the ladder. Next day, we see that I think someone is making copies of a test with they're using like this stencil. After all the copies are done, stencil gets thrown out.
Yeah.
And Bluto and D-Day are in charge of getting the answers for the psychology test, right? But meanwhile, while that happens, one of the Omega people go in and switch out the stencil.
For a completely different test or just like a wrong answer key.
Yeah, so Delta gets the wrong answer sheet and all of them get 0 answers right on the test. And I guess that was something that the dean needed, right? Because after that, he goes to their house and confronts them. And he's like, "Oh, this is all you only need to have one more chance." And then your frat's done.
Yeah, so like before this, like when like at the very first time we like see the dean and stuff, he talks about how like they have like for like over 7 years been like destroying the campus.
Yeah.
And it's funny that now it's like he has the ability to throw them out now. Like it's just like it seemed like they weren't gonna do good in school prior to this.
Yeah.
So it's funny that like now it's like, all right, they have bad test scores, and now I just need one more shenanigan from Delta House, and they're gone because now they're on double secret probation.
Yeah, and I think what pushes this even more is the mayor that had the meeting with the dean, and he's like, "I don't want Delta House around because they're having a parade later on."
Yeah, so like probably like a month before the parade is when they find out that they're gonna get like possibly kicked off.
Yeah, because after that, the dean goes into Delta House and starts scolding everyone.
Yeah.
He's like, "You guys are fuck ups. Like, You just need one more thing and you're done, right? And instead of doing the reasonable thing, Delta House think the only logical thing to do now to cheer them up is to throw a toga party.
Yes. So we get probably the best part of the movie is the toga party.
Oh, by far.
So before the toga party, we get Pinto. We find out that he's a virgin, and so he goes out to try to get a girl, but they're also like the whole Delta House is like getting stuff for the party and everything, like beer, food, all that shit, and they're stealing a majority of everything, and so they just start shoving like food in Pinto's sweater.
Yeah, just raw meat.
And it's to the point where it's like, it's not even like funny anymore. It's just like such an overbearing amount. And like they go past the cashier and she's like, are you going to pay for any of that? And he's like, I'm with like the fraternity and like, please don't rat me out. And she's like real cool. She's like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So he gets kind of like swooned by her a little bit. And he's like, hey, do you want to go? It's a toga party. And she's like, okay, I'll meet you there.
Yeah. The cashier, right? So her name is Clarette.
Clarette, okay.
Yeah. While Pinto's flirting with Clarette, the cashier, we see Otter is hitting on some older woman.
Yes, which through a little bit of dialogue, we find out that it is the dean's wife.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, because she's picking out cucumbers. And he grabs one. He's like, oh, mine's bigger.
And she's like, what? And he goes, my cucumber.
Yeah.
It's bigger than yours.
So he invites the dean's wife to the toga party as well. But she says, oh, I have this like thing going on.
Yeah,
I
this
wish
like
I could.
This like fancy dinner to go
Yeah.
to. So he's just like, well, it's an open invitation, you know.
Hinting at what's to come.
Oh, yeah.
So they go back and the toga party happens, right? Do you have any like points that you want to talk about that happened during this toga party?
So immediately Flounder arrives in his brother's car. I think he gets. It's a very nice car. And he rolls up with, he has a girlfriend actually.
Yeah, which I had no idea that he had a girlfriend because she's super pretty.
Yeah, and like they're both dressed to like, in comparison to everyone here, to the nines. And everyone's having like toga, like just like the bed sheets wrapped around them and stuff like that. I believe right before this though, Boone and Katie get into a little bit of an argument. Katie wants Boone to grow up.
Yeah.
She's like, come on, you're gonna graduate soon. Like, are you really gonna spend every weekend getting drunk and stuff? So they're gonna have the toga party and he's really excited for it, but she's like, no, I'm busy this weekend, I can't.
Yeah, because he's trying to get her to go, and he says it's a toga party, not an orgy.
Yeah. Which, like, I feel like they make that reference like twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Katie doesn't show, but Boone still goes because he's like, I'm in the frat.
Yeah.
I have to go to the frat party.
Oh yeah. Did you notice that when Flounder and his girlfriend show up, a beer bottle gets like smashed at them?
Yeah, like almost immediately.
And I don't think the actors knew that was gonna happen because they look very surprised.
Yeah, they look mortified. But also, when they first roll up, a barrel comes crashing out of the window where the mannequin came out of in the first part of the movie.
That poor window.
I know, they just got it replaced, and they're like, fuck that window, it's going down.
Yeah, and then we see this guy playing guitar on the staircase.
Which, like, there's always one in college. There's that guy. He's slowly, like, playing. He's weeping. And all the girls are, like, kind of swooning around him.
But what were the lyrics? Did you catch what he was saying? They made no sense.
They made no sense at all. Oh, my God.
That's all right. And I guess Bluto thought they didn't make any sense either because he ends up grabbing the guitar and just smashing it against the wall.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because it seems super practical. Because, like, when he first hits against it, you see part of the drywall just come clean off, and the guitar is still, like, perfectly intact. Yeah. And he just starts, like, swinging even harder with it.
Destroys it, and all he has to say for himself is, sorry.
Sorry. Which I thought was probably, like, maybe the best part of the whole toga party. Oh, yeah. And it happens, like, literally 1 minute in.
Yeah, and then there's there's like a band playing for them. It's like Otis and the Knights.
Yeah, and it's like a full band in their basement, and they're playing Shout, and everyone's going like fucking crazy. But I have to say that part was pretty like they played like the whole song,
Yeah, they played the whole song.
and it felt like a music video. Like this is this is the music video for Shout. I know not really, but this is what it felt like.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's going crazy, and during this, the cashier girl, Clarette, shows up and gets drunk almost immediately.
Oh yeah, she knows how to party at these. She immediately goes down and like slams 2 drinks.
Yeah. So, her and Pinto end up going into someone's room because they're gonna do the deed, but she ends up passing out because she's drunk, right?
Yeah.
And
We get another part, a pretty funny scene.
where he has like the devil and the angels on his shoulder. One's telling him to like fuck the shit out of her, and the other one's like, do the right thing. You'll regret this forever if you make a mistake. And this is another part where I think the movie makes us feel for Delta House, because like, even though they're all degenerates, he ends up doing the right thing.
And he like just takes her home. He puts her in a shopping cart, which was the best part of that scene.
Yeah.
And just wheels her home, which is when we find out that she is the mayor's daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, because he just pushes the shopping cart up to the door, knocks, and then gets the fuck out of there.
Oh yeah, I would not want to stay around for that.
So the news gets out that the Delta boys threw a toga party. So they get...
But before that, the Toga Party's not over-ish.
okay.
Who's our last guest that arrives at the
You're
Toga
right.
Party? The dean's wife shows up. Looks a little drunk or just pissed or something.
Yeah, what's her name? Like Marion?
I just been calling her Dean's wife in my notes. So she shows up and meets up with Otter, and she's like, "Get me a drink." And he's like, "I'll make you a drink." And so they go up to like, I assume, Otter's room.
Yeah.
Which looks very fancy compared to the rest of Delta House.
Oh yeah, he has like dimmers and like...
He has a bar up there and like a full-on like cheetah bed couch thing. It looked very strange.
Yeah, that whole part where he's making a drink and he has a cup and he's just like chucking ice, but he keeps missing the cup with the ice.
Yeah.
I think just like shows how charming this guy is. So he ends up sealing it with the dean's wife.
Yeah. So then like he swoops her off her feet and like lays her on the bed and then goes in for it.
Which I don't know if he knew that was the dean's wife when he first started hitting on her.
I think he did.
You think he did?
I feel like a lot of things that character does is like calculated.
All right, because yeah, at first when he approaches her at the grocery store, I was like, oh, he didn't get with Mandy. Yeah. So he's like, I guess still trying to find someone.
Yeah, I think he knows.
He knows?
Yeah, I personally think so. Because the way he initiates like conversation and stuff, he's like, oh, there's... I forget the dean's last name.
Warmer.
He's just like, oh, there's a warmer at the college I go to. He's my dean. He goes, that's my husband. He goes, oh, what a small world kind of feel. Yeah. Like, he definitely knows.
Yeah, so the dean finds out, right, that they had a toga party. And he gets like a phone call, I guess, telling him all of this while his wife is like drunk.
And like trying to play like footsies with him or something. And she's like just like very like giddy and stuff like that. Probably had a fantastic night with Otter. And she's like just like riding the high of it.
Yeah, because I think this like alludes to them getting a divorce or separating, because in the newspaper it says that she's on like a 6-week break or like on a vacation or something, damn. Right?
Definitely a break then.
Yeah. So the dean takes the Delta House to almost like a makeshift court.
Yeah, it's like the student council. Which it's led by Greg.
Yeah, Greg. Yeah.
Greg and the dean, and Niedermeyer's there, I believe.
Yeah, he is like the
prosecution.
Yeah, the prosecution, I guess. Yeah.
And so Delta House, but like when they're going there and stuff like that is when you see more of stuff with Boone and his girl Katie. she's just like, oh, it must have been a good party. And he's like, yeah, you should have like came. And she's like, I'm busy. You know, I'm like clearly showing him that like she's trying to move past this.
Yeah.
And their relationship's a little rocky. Which like when the first time I watched this movie till now, totally forgot that there was like a relationship subplot.
Yeah, right?
It kind of forgot and didn't expect it.
Yeah, because we don't get a lot of like screen time with both of them. We get a scene here where they're with Pinto hanging out with the professor.
Yeah, that's like early in the movie.
Yeah, and they're like smoking pot, and like that's one of
Yeah.
the few times we see Boone and Katie together.
Yeah, that's probably like their best scene together because like they're like lovey-dovey. They're all high in the bathtub and like
Yeah.
singing to each other.
Definitely like the longest scene.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that definitely was a scene that I feel like could have got cut. And
Yeah.
the movie would not have changed at all.
Yeah, so Niedermeyer back in the courthouse is just pointing out these reasons why Delta House should be stripped of their charter, right? And the person who's defending Delta House is Hoover, the chairman, which is like the lawyer guy,
Yeah.
kind of. He keeps like trying to defend himself, and the dean's like, "It's like shut up."
Yeah,
Like,
you'll get your turn to speak
Mhm.
later.
So after a while, he finally gets his turn, and he starts talking, and Dean's like, "I think we've heard enough."
Yeah, so the prosecution gets to list like these like 3-4 things that are just like super heinous. Delta House gets to defend like only half of one, and they're like, we're done here.
Yeah.
Then that's when Otter, there we go. When Otter stands up and he's like, I got this. I'm pre-law. It was like, I thought you were pre-med. What's the difference?
Yeah. Yeah, like while this is happening, like the rest of Delta House is behind them, right? And they're just making a fucking ruckus out of everything.
Yeah, this is definitely a scene where I'm just like, they are animals. Like
Yeah.
literally like when Boone, Otter, and Hoover walk in, they go fucking crazy.
Yeah.
They're like, let's go.
Yeah, because Hoover's like, tell those assholes to shut up. And Booth turns around and he's like, hey, assholes, shut up.
And then when the dean doesn't let them speak anymore, Bluto's like, eat me. Eat me.
Yeah, so Otter takes the stand and he starts giving off this like almost like presidential speech.
Yeah, it's very like just like I said, he's like a masterclass in bullshit. Because like the things he's saying and like how he's presenting it, it's like, wow, look at that guy. He knows how to public speak. But realistically, what the fuck is he saying?
Yeah, because he's just pointing out that it's like, oh, the frat house is. Are you, if you're accusing us of being a failure, and it's like, aren't we all failures? Like, wouldn't like the whole principle of frat houses, and he's
Yeah.
like, doesn't it just boil down to the education system failing us in America?
Yeah, so he definitely just like sticks the blame like right back at the dean, which is not a bad way to defend yourself.
Yeah.
But in the cases of everything that they've done, it's like you've been in college for like 7+ years. I think it's time to move on.
Yeah, because they end up just like basically going like, we refuse to hear any more of this, and they all like march out. I think they're like,
Singing Pledge of Allegiance.
yeah, or something. But what ends up happening is like they still get their charter revoked, right?
Yeah, so they like confiscate everything that was in Delta House.
Yeah, they're ripping down the Delta House sign, stripping the house of everything.
Yeah, and they take out one of my favorite pieces of decoration. And we see in the Rush Party, there's like a mermaid mannequin thing, and it has where it's like its chest, its breast would be, its fish tanks.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really funny because when before Pinto gets his name, he looks over it and like Katie's like, nice fish, right?
Yeah, and like they take the whole like all their booze and then, like
And
the
Bluto's like going fucking crazy.
he's like, they took the whole bar, man.
So this is when Otter shows back up, and he's like, kind of like, he expected this to happen, you know. So they're ripping everything down, and you know he like gives Bluto the fifth of Jack Daniels to calm him down. This is when they're like, well, like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And they're like, road trip, of course.
Yeah.
So Otter Boone, Flounder, and Pinto all go to Emily Dickinson College for probably the longest scene in the entire movie.
Yeah, I think this is definitely not my favorite scene by far.
No.
And they definitely could have removed this scene, but they end up going there. And I think this is like where I started losing interest in Animal House a little bit, just because it goes off the rails. Because for the beginning of this movie, I was like, okay, I could see this like being fun. It's like an Animal House, and like everyone's super rowdy. And then it starts getting a little bit more obnoxious, but then here just takes like a turn.
Yeah, it's like they didn't know what to do. So they were like, okay, I know what we're going to do.
Yeah, because I think either Boone or Otter see in the obituary that someone named Fawn died.
Yes.
So they go up to Emily Dickinson College, and Otter goes in, talks to one of the girls, and he's like, oh, is Fawn here? I'm here to pick her up for a date. And
Yeah,
she's like,
and they're like, the receptionist is like, 1 second. She's on the phone and goes, you need to get down here right now. Like, someone's here to see Fawn. So Fawn's roommate comes down and breaks the news to him.
Yeah.
And it's like, I missed the part where they looked at the newspaper and saw that the obituary. So I was like, all right, I don't know who the hell this Fawn character is. And then when she says he's dead, I was like, oh my God, it's a ploy.
Yeah,
it's a ploy for them
the whole time.
So on their way down, they're like, Otter, are we all gonna have dates? And he goes, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So he plays the fake sympathy card, which I wrote down, like, this is fucking creepy.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, hey, where's Fawn? She's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but Fawn's dead. She died in like a kiln explosion. And he's like, oh no, I just talked to her last week. She was gonna make a pot for me.
Yeah. Which is like, oh man, like that, it's such a fucked up thing. It's like cringy funny because you're like, fuck, like I want this to be over.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, what can I do like to make you feel better? And he's like, I don't want to be alone tonight. Would you go on a date with me? And she's like, I'll get my coat. And he asked for 3 friends to tag along.
And he says it like she gets up to go get her coat and goes, and 3 friends for my friends. So they all pile in Flounder's brother's car. Because Flounder doesn't go, right?
No, he's there.
Oh, he's there? Okay.
Yeah, he's pumped. He has a girlfriend, but for some reason he's still pumped.
Okay.
So they drive around and they see a bar. And it has Otis and the Knights are performing there.
And they're like, Otis loved us.
Yeah, it's like, I love Otis. So they like go into the bar, and little did they know, but it's a black bar.
Yes, it is a bar that is all, there is nothing. I don't want to say that part. There is no white people in sight. It's like record scratch. They all look at them. And they're like, oh, okay. But they continue in, and they are shown on multiple occasions that they do not want them there.
Yeah.
Maybe because they're also just rowdy college kids, too. Because even when he goes, like, hey, my man Otis, like, Otis is like, I don't say my name. Like, that was like the look.
I don't know you. And it's just the most awkward scene, right? Because I think other than Otis, there's no other, like, black people in this movie.
Yeah, like up until this part.
And this just shows something about like the 70s, right? It's like white people think black people are scary.
Yeah, and like they make every single person in this bar come off as like terrorizing.
Oh yeah, because I think Flounder or Boone go up to the bar, and some guy just pulls out a knife instantly.
Yeah, like he goes up, he orders some drinks, and he like kind of like looks over at the girl on his right, and she's like, "Don't look at me."
Yeah.
And then when he looks over on the left, the guy like shows him the knife, and he's like, "Okay." And this is when Otter is like pretending to be upset about Fawn's death, and he runs back to the car, and then his date like runs to go comfort him in the car, and this is when we find out his intentions, where he's like, no, I'm gonna get laid in this car because you're gonna feel bad for me. And I was like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah, so that's weird. And then back at the bar, 3 other dudes show up to the gang, and they're just intimidating everyone.
Yes, like one by one they show up, And then all of a sudden it's like, I think like what Flounder. Oh yeah. Now I remember him being there because Flounder's like, "What school do you go to?"
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's like deadpan, looking forward, and they're just like, "Can we dance with your dates?" And then like it was said more like as like not a question, but like as a command.
Yeah.
Like it's like a statement. We're going to dance with them, and he just like picks the table up that was in between them all, and it goes, "Yeah, sure. I don't see why not."
Yeah. And they all fucking book it.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, do you want to know what you should do with your feet? Leave. That's a great idea. That's exactly what we're gonna do." So they all run back to the car. Otter doesn't get laid.
No, because the girl, once all the boys go back into the car, the girl like yells and gets out and jumps into like some other car.
Yeah, I thought that was weird because they all rolled up together, and then she
Mm.
jumps in this like hot pink car,
Mm-hmm.
and then they drive off, but not before slamming into literally every single vehicle they can. Where Flounder's like, "My brother's car, he's gonna kill me."
Yeah, and they're just like yelling, and they're like, "They took our dates."
They took our dates. And I was like, "Oh, thank God that part's over."
Yeah, that was definitely one of like the cringiest scenes of the movie.
Yeah.
So like, and it was just so long because after that, they all wreck Flanders' brother's car, and they drive off.
And then Boone gets the feeling that Katie's cheating on him.
Yeah.
Because before they make it back to the adult house, they stop. It's like morning all of a sudden, and they stop for food, and he's at a payphone, which forgot they existed.
Yeah.
So thank you, Animal House, for reminding me payphones did exist.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, "Oh man," like I think, like where the hell is she at? It's 6 a.m.
Yeah. So because she doesn't answer the phone. So they make it back to the house, the Delta house. And Boone's like, "I gotta go deal with this, right?"
Yeah.
Everyone, and then Flounder is just devastated because his brother's car is destroyed. Everyone goes to do their own thing.
And then I think it's D-Day, Bluto, and Otter. Kind of like in a dick way console him a little bit about the car. He's like, "Oh, it's you were doing good, but it's your fault that you trusted us with your brother's car." So they like make up a story about how like he's gonna say that he left it out back and it got stolen, and D-Day's gonna like scrap the car, which is like, I think it's like the only reason why they demolished the car is for like the big ending part that we'll get to.
Yeah.
So like, basically like up until that point, that whole road trip thing was not worth it. It wasn't really like done for anything.
Yeah. Yeah, because like, so D-Day and Bluto go about destroying the car, and we go back to Boone going to Katie's apartment. And he's like, I don't know if he knocks or if he just goes into that place.
Yeah.
But we see that Katie is just in a shirt, and Boone is just like, "Oh, hey, like, you haven't been answering, like, what's going on?" And we just hear some guy's voice in the background, like, saying, "Hey, Katie, where is this?"
Yeah, so Boone leaves, and we find out that she was sleeping with the hippie professor.
Yeah, Professor, like, Jennings.
Yeah, that, like, sold them or gave them pot or whatever. Which was kind of, like, not out of left field, but I was just kind of like, oh, I haven't seen him since the beginning of the movie, so kind of funny.
Well, like, the one time we're introduced to him, I think Katie says something along the lines of,
"He's my favorite teacher."
Yeah, like, don't say anything dumb in front of him.
Yeah.
So, Boone leaves, devastated, obviously. While this is happening, this other girl, I think her name is Babs, talks to Greg. And because it's like a very slight plot line that Babs is in love with Greg, and Mandy, she doesn't think Mandy's like right for him.
Yeah.
So she tells Greg that for some reason Otter is having sex with Mandy.
Just to get him to like go kick the shit out of him.
Yeah, because Babs wants Greg. So
they call up Otter.
And
they're like, "Mandy wants you." Says to meet her at the Rainbow Hotel or Rainbow Motel. And he's like, "What does she want with me?" It's like, "Oh, like she's just been asking about you." So he goes, with flowers and chocolates and stuff like that. And he knocks on the door and he just goes, "I have a bunch of roses for my one," you know. And he walks in and it's just a bunch of the Omega House guys.
Yeah, he's just like, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like, oh, I didn't bring enough roses.
Yeah, like a couple of you boys are gonna have to share. And like before he can even get that quip out, they just start kicking the shit out of him.
Yeah, right. So everyone's down on their luck. Delta House is done.
Yeah.
And while this is all happening, like while Boone is realizing his girlfriend's cheating on him, Otter's getting the shit kicked out of him.
The rest of Delta House is called the dean's office.
Yes, because the dean was waiting for their grades to come out, and as it turns out, they are all terrible students.
Yeah, the highest GPA is a 1.7.
1.7, I think. Yeah, everyone has 1.7s or like lower. I think Bluto has a 0.0.
And D-Day has a incomplete on every single class.
Yeah.
Which of all my time in college, I've never seen someone have an incomplete for a class. I don't know what you do to get that.
I think it just stopped showing up.
But wouldn't that just be a 0?
I don't know.
Like that's like I guess like I don't know.
Yeah, so the dean tells them all that they're expelled.
Yep, and Delta House is finished once and for all.
And probably one of like the darker things of this movie is the dean says that he notified the draft board of their eligibility.
Yeah, that they could all get drafted.
Yeah, which is like so dark because he's just like pretty much sending all these like boys to die.
Yeah, so I googled that actually. So did not know that. So like to get financial aid and stuff like that, you sign up for like selective service. And while you're in college, you cannot be like pulled.
Yeah.
So a lot of people use that as like a draft dodging like mechanic. Because even if you like go into like a medical field when you're out of college, you can still get pulled if you're in the age bracket. So yeah, when I heard that, I was like, wait, is that how that worked? I thought you get drafted right in college.
No, when you're in college, you don't get drafted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all of this is just way too much for Flounder, because he proceeds to puke all over the dean.
Yeah, so Flounder kind of has it like some of the worst in this movie.
Oh yeah.
His first year of college, he's stuck with the shittiest he's stuck with shittiest frat. His brother's car gets totaled. I don't know, we don't see his girlfriend ever again.
No.
We don't know what happened to her. And then now he's like kicked out of school. He might get drafted now. It's like, you know, kind of the worst stick you could be drawn right now.
Yeah, so after that, everyone kind of regroups back at the Delta House.
And everyone's like sad and miserable.
Yeah, everyone's moping around.
I think everyone's there, right? And then
yeah, because Otter
comes in and like, holy shit, what happened to you? He just goes, oh, a bunch of Omega guys like beat me up, you know.
Yeah.
And they're like, why? And then like he doesn't say why. He like kind of like this, like, oh, because they're assholes, like.
Yeah, and I think this is what like pushes Bluto over the edge.
Yeah, so everyone's basically given up at this point, and Bluto gives his like speech.
Yeah, his very like historically inaccurate speech.
Yeah,
to rile everyone up.
Yeah, it's like to get everyone. It's like when the going gets tough, and then he pauses and he's waiting for everyone to like finish it, and everyone's like looking down at the floor. They're like, I don't care.
It's like the tough get going. It's like when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor.
And like Boone and Otter are like, the Germans. He goes, no, don't interrupt him. He's on a roll.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know how he phrases it, but it ends up being like the Deltas get even, right?
Yeah, it's like it's not over until we say it's over. So the Delta House is gonna hatch one last nefarious scheme to get back at the Dean and Omega House.
Yeah, the Dean, Omega House, everyone that's ever wronged them.
Yes, in one foul swoop.
Yeah. So the plan is to basically become terrorists to this small town.
Yes.
The D-Day is in charge of tearing apart the already wrecked car into a float.
Yep.
Flounder's in charge of like getting marbles.
Yeah.
And a couple other people are doing other things. And then Pinto is going to go check on his lady friend while this is happening, I think.
So he shows up and he's like trying to like throw rocks at her window, and which at the point he throws like too big a rock and just shatters the window, and she comes up to him and goes, "Oh hey, what's up?" Like totally like not fazed by it at all.
Well, she's like, "Oh hey, Tommy." And he's like, "Oh, Larry."
Yeah. So which is kind of funny because I think that exact same thing happens to him in the beginning of the movie where like they don't get his name right.
Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, because Greg's like, oh, this is Lonnie.
Lonnie. He goes, Larry. He goes, whatever, Lonnie. So they meet at the door and they're like talking as this girl's like, I never got to say like, you know, I had a great night and stuff like that. And he was kind of like, he's like hinting, he's like, like maybe you want to go get beer or whatever, you know. And she's like, oh, no beer tonight, but like let's go have sex though.
Yeah. Yeah, so they go to like a football field, right?
Yeah. Which I'm not sure if that like it looked real, like you know, like the shot. I thought that shot was pretty cool, the empty football field, and it's like them like on like with the sleeping bags. I was like, that's cool. That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah.
But this is where we get like the big reveal.
Oh yeah, like needle drop.
Yeah, because like right before they do it, he's like, I just want to let you know, like I've never done this before, you know. And she goes, yeah, I haven't done it before either. Because I'm only 13. And then that's when like the scene like cuts and I was like, oh fuck. I was like, I'm not so sure if like our boy Larry is a bro anymore.
Yeah. Well, we don't know if he goes through with it, right?
Well, I don't think he does.
No, I don't think so either.
But he has been kissing and making out with this girl though.
Yes.
So it's
why is she a cashier at 13?
Yeah, and why is she like so much? I don't know. She does not seem 13. It's more funny than anything because it's just kind of like one of those like drops. You're like, fuck.
Yeah, so it cuts back to the parade. It's parade day, homecoming parade, I think.
Yes.
And everything's going off. The mayor and the dean are making like a speech. I think the mayor elects the dean as like a marshal or something.
Yeah, he's like the town marshal for the day.
Yeah. So this is when Delta House decides to enact their plan.
Yes.
Someone pushes the baton guy from the marching band out of the way, steals the baton, and leads the marching band into an alley.
Yeah, which was very weird. Like they're like cattle.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because the main guy leading the marching band doesn't get up or go back to
like
hey,
he
you
gets
pushed
like,
me.
Yeah, like he gets pushed and like he like gets knocked out immediately.
Yeah, so it takes him into an alley, and then the marching band just keeps marching into a wall without stopping.
Yeah, like they don't stop at all, which is like just so funny.
And I think Hoover attaches like a chain to one of the floats, so one of the floats gets destroyed.
Yeah, and then Flounder dropped all the marbles.
Yeah, because D-Day and the rest of the boys, I think Bluto, Otter, they're all rolling up in the float.
Which is a giant cake.
It's a giant cake that says "Eat Me" on it.
Yes.
And they're just crashing through all the other floats. So Niedermeyer and his troops are like, just get after them. So that's when like Flounder goes out and then drops all the marbles, and then all the Omega boys start like tripping all over everything, right?
Yeah.
So chaos ensues. Bluto jumps out of the cake. He's dressed as a pirate.
Yeah, he's like ready to do some like swashbuckling adventures.
Yeah. Like starts climbing over things. Like it's just chaos everywhere.
Yeah, and this is like a part of the movie where it's like I feel like they had a lot of ideas and they wanted to just like do all of them at once. Like there's a part where so like it's in a parade in the middle of downtown, it seems like, not really residential.
No.
And there's a float that has like girls that are kind of like dressed like Playboy bunnies on it, and when that float gets destroyed, the girls fall off, and like one girl falls off screen, and we cut to like this kid in his room with a Playboy poster, and he's looking at Playboy, and she comes crashing into his bed. He looks up at this guy, goes, "Thank you, God," and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
And then, Boone is getting like taken away by cops. Katie shows up and she's like, "Oh, like don't deal with him. Like they're looting the food store over
Yeah, no, they're
there."
looting the Food King, and they drop everything to go do the Food King.
Mm-hmm.
But
So I think like at that point, Boone and Katie get together.
yeah,
All of this is happening. The cake float gets ripped off the car, and it's
Yeah.
like a death mobile.
Yeah, like they had like a plan to like they like split the car in half and they just like send the one part forward and it crashes into the stand where like the dean and the mayor are
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, and all of this is just like there is no point to any of this other than to get back at the dean, get back at everyone who's ever wronged
Yeah.
them. Like there is no goal, right? Like they don't want to go back to school.
They can't go back
Yeah,
to school.
they're expelled. So it's just, I guess, to get even in their mind.
I guess so. Yeah, it's a lot of like unnecessary like shit that happened, but it's just kind of like the same thing that they do the rest of the time. They're just animals. They're going to act like animals.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, if you're gonna fuck with us, but we're just gonna go one step further.
Yeah, and then we see Larry and the cashier girl show up, go up to the mayor, and she's like, "Hey, Dad, this is Larry. He's the boy that molested me last month. We got to get married."
And then like he's like, oh, I can explain. And then this is when we get the shots of like where everyone starts running away from danger, and it like kind of like freeze frames.
Oh, yeah, this is where we got all the freeze frames of everything going, like what ends up happening to everyone, right?
Yes.
And also while this is happening, Niedermeyer gets his gun and puts live ammo in his rifle.
And he shoots at Flounder.
Yeah, which he's like a fucking maniac.
Yeah, so like he snaps.
Yeah.
I do like his freeze frame. I think it says he dies in Vietnam,
Killed by his troops.
killed by his own troops, which I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because this is the end of the movie. This like chaos at the parade is what ends it, and then this is where we get like all these freeze frames and things telling us about the characters. I think it's like D-Day, last known location unknown.
Yeah, he steals a cop car and he like just goes off the grid.
Yeah, and then Boone and Katie get married, and then like 4 years later get divorced.
Yeah.
And I think Bluto ends up stealing a car with Babs in it.
Yeah, like definitely one of the girls from Omega House.
Yeah, he like drives off, and it turns out he ends up being a senator.
Yeah, which was like so left field.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's any more of the freeze frames that you can recall.
I can't recall a lot of them because like they kind of happened really quick.
I think the last one I remember is Otter becomes a gynecologist.
I think you're right. Yeah, Otter becomes a gynecologist. There is one where it's like they become like part of like senators or something like that for like Nixon, or they're on his like cabinet, I think
Yeah.
it says. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, and that is Animal House.
Yes.
So we are going to take a quick break and get back to some of our favorite quotes and some trivia, and then we'll end the podcast there. All right, and we're back. So in this movie, I think Bluto might have the only memorable quotes for me.
Yeah.
Which are, he says something along the lines, I think it's when he gets expelled, and he's like, "Christ, 7 years of college down the drain. Might as well join the fucking Peace Corps."
Yeah. So, I talking about Bluto, I think he's probably the most memorable character of this entire movie.
Oh, for sure.
Just because like all his shenanigans are very like heightened.
Mm-hmm.
But if I go with my favorite quote, I think so. Pinto, when he's trying to get laid, right before she passes out, he's trying to take her bra off, and he's like fucking struggling so hard. And he goes, "I think it's like locked or something." And I'm just like, we've all been there, boys.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Another one that I think stood out to me just because it's said by young Kevin Bacon. I think it's from his first role. It's when he's getting into the Omega House, and he's bent over, and Greg is spanking him. And he's just like, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" Spank. "Thank you, sir. May I have another?"
In the world of like frat houses and stuff like that, that is like how I've heard almost every pledging for like big houses happen.
Just fucking getting
Where
paddled.
where like they just like do some like weird like, I don't want to like say gay, but like it's just weird sexual stuff to each other. And it's like, are these frat houses just trying to come out like
Yeah.
of the closet? I think it's more of like a dominating power they want over these people. But I've heard that so many times where like people get spanked or hot wax gets poured on them. And I'm like, why do you want that? And they're like, it's a rite of passage. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna stay home.
It's a kink for sure.
It is a kink. I'm not kink shaming, but I think it's weird when you bring it into college.
Yeah.
To get into a house.
So scenes. Do you have any scenes that you think were like the best?
I think probably the Toga Party is the best part of the movie.
Toga.
In the Toga Party, I guess like the memorable things that stand out that I thought was like funny. When Bluto destroys the guitar on the stairs, dancing to Shout, when the dean's wife shows up. It's kind of like out of nowhere kind of thing.
Yeah, the whole Toga
Yeah.
scene I think is probably the best part of Animal House and what I think saves Animal House.
Yeah, I'd say honestly, it's the best skit of the movie if I dare say it. So I think I'm gonna go with that as definitely like scene wise.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, the Toga Party for me as well. I think that was one of the best scenes of the movie. That and the inspirational speech they give at the end, just because it's so wacky and out of nowhere. I do have some problematic scenes that.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of them, but some of the scenes that I think could just get removed entirely is the entire road trip scene, just because nothing comes of it other than Flounder's brother's car getting destroyed.
And like in the road trip part, how Otter pretends to be the boyfriend of the deceased girl.
Yeah.
Like that's fucked.
Yeah.
The all black bar scene, that's fucked.
Yeah.
And like just like I don't know, like the whole part of it, I was like, yeah, you're right, nothing comes of it. It could totally get scrapped. I more or less like if I laughed at any part of that, it was probably when the car was getting smashed and Flounder's like my brother. And if I did wince, because like when I cringe I kind of like laugh. So that part I did, like the whole road trip part, I definitely was like cringing a bit at certain parts. I was like, ooh, not sure if I like this.
And like not a scene, but I think just like an element of the movie that I could do without. It's just like the grocery store's age being 13. I could do without that.
Yeah, that was wild.
Just because you do see her naked. So you're like,
yeah,
this
like,
is weird.
Like I don't think the actress was 13, obviously, because that would be child porn.
Yeah.
But you know, definitely like because like it now that we know she's that age, it's like this is weird now.
It's so weird and bizarre.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, definitely. I'd say that was pretty problematic.
Yeah. All right. So let's go on to some trivia. All right. Do you want me to start first?
All right, you go first.
All right. So I just have a couple of trivia here. One of them being that John Belushi's performance in the cafeteria scene was totally improvised. When he started piling food on the tray, the director just was telling the cameraman, and he's like, stay with him. And the infamous I'm a zit was also improvised, and the reaction from the cast is completely genuine.
Oh my god. All right, when you're casting the movie like Animal House and you know the whole thing, so if you put yourself in the shoes of those actors that go like, you're a pig pig, and then he does the zit thing on you, what's your reaction? Are you mad at him?
I think I'm just like appalled.
I think I'm mad at him. Like I'm like pissed that he did that. Granted, he is playing a pretty good character now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would be pissed if someone just, I don't know, spewed food all over me and I didn't know it was coming.
I guess all the people from the Delta House, the actors, they turned into like a little posse, and even off camera, they were being mean to all the Omega people so they could like keep up this like rivalry.
That's so funny.
All right. Do you have a trivia for me?
Yeah, so John Belushi, Bluto, during when this movie was on, he was on Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
And so this is his like first role in a movie. But John Belushi had like a very bad like drug and alcohol addiction. So filming Animal House was really tough because they didn't want him drinking. They wanted to like help him in some way. So there was no substance abuse allowed. Like no, I don't know if anyone was allowed to drink, but I know John Belushi was forbidden to drink on set, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, he couldn't even stay at the same hotel as everyone else.
Yeah. So then that whole scene of the Jack Daniels, it's iced tea like we thought it was. And I thought that was pretty interesting that that the director and everyone was like, this is for like, I know you want to do this movie, but like we're also going to help you. You know? We don't want to encourage you to kill yourself essentially. Yeah. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was very cool of the cast to do that. Another trivia that I have is, since this was Kevin Bacon's first role, when he went to the premiere of the movie, he wasn't allowed to sit with the rest of the cast because the ushers didn't believe that he was in the movie. So he had to sit in the back with everyone else.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Because he's in it for such like a minor role too.
Yeah, no, he's not in it for very long.
Which is just crazy to like, I think where Kevin Bacon went after this.
Yeah, it's not in the same direction.
No, it's not. But he becomes just as big.
Yeah, I would argue bigger than
most of them.
Yeah, because like honestly, the biggest actor up there would be John Belushi and him. Like I don't really like none of these other people do I like think about. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember them in other movies. Maybe they are in like this category, and I don't really tend to watch comedies because I just like, I don't know. I think my humor is very weird. Yeah. So I gotta stay away from like typical comedy movies. So maybe I missed out on these other actors and actresses, but I noticed during the parade, and I had to like immediately pull out my phone to fact check. So the movie takes place in 63.
62.
62?
Yeah, they graduate in 63, or I guess it could expel in 63.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so the movie kind of takes place in 63. So Kennedy dies in 63. He dies in November of 63, and the parade kind of takes place like near December-ish. So like not even a month since he died. The mayor has a float of his face and stuff like that, and there's all these girls on it just like Jackie Kennedy. And I was watching it, and I was like, this is so strange.
It's so fucked.
Now, like, the movie, it came out in 78. So, like, it came out after. But I was like, it's so funny that they were like, this like, town is like, oh, we're just going to have, like, this, like, JFK-esque, like, fucking float.
Yeah. So, you said that John Belushi, during this time, was on Saturday Night Live, right?
Yes.
So he had to fly back and forth from Oregon, where they were filming, all the way back to New York twice a week, so they could keep rehearsing and taping Saturday Night Live.
Which would have sucked.
Oh, for sure. And it's just like, I guess it's because he's one of the biggest stars for this movie. Yeah. So they definitely needed him.
Yeah, he was in like, of what people say, like he was in like the pinnacle of like Saturday Night Live. Like the beginning years, people say like you can never get back. Yeah. And like he is really funny on Saturday Night Live. The character he plays in Animal House feels like a Saturday Night Live character. Oh yeah. You know, no depth. It's a comedy. But after watching this movie and touching back that he was in Saturday Night Live, this whole movie felt like they had a bunch of skits. Oh yeah. That they couldn't do in Saturday Night Live. So they're like, what if we culminate them with this like loose thread of a frat house? And like that's because like some scenes just kind of cut and you get back into like a brand new thing. Yeah. Like how like they're getting like all their shit ripped out of Delta House. And their next thing is like road trip. You know, it's like we can't leave out the road trip scene. Yeah. We gotta fish that in somewhere. So that's why I felt kind of like disjointed in some parts, I think, is because they had all these skits and there's like tying them together. Yeah. Which I guess works for some people. I guess it worked for like the time of 78, but I think nowadays people want like fluidity. If that's a word. They want things to be more fluid.
Yeah. I could see that. I here's another bit of trivia for you. So during the 30th anniversary, there was some interviews for the film, and Karen Allen, who plays Katie, said that during her nude scene, the director wanted her to show her like ass, and she was like, kind of reluctant to do that. So the professor, Donald Sutherland, he stepped in and offered to show his ass as well, and he said, "Oh," and then Karen Allen was like, "Oh, I thought it was so sweet to do that." So I sort of let go of my objections and said, "Okay, if Donald Sutherland is going to bare his bottom, by golly, I'll bare mine too."
By golly.
Which is like, because in that scene where she shows her ass, I think it's like 5 seconds later, and then we see his ass too.
Oh my god. Yeah.
It's like when he reaches up.
Yeah, that's so funny. By golly, I'll show my ass too.
I don't know if you knew this, but more money was spent on advertising and promotion for the film than actually on the film itself.
No fucking way.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, how much did they spend?
I don't have the number.
Fuck, okay. Cut it.
But I know that, I think Warner Brothers was the one that distributed this. They didn't like this movie. Like,
yeah.
When they screened this for themselves, they were like, fuck, we just lost so much money. And they were very reluctant to release it. And it wasn't until like general audience started watching it and they were like laughing. They were like, okay, I guess this might work.
Yeah. Because I guess like when you think about like raunchy movies, like this is definitely like the start. Like we said, it's like a stepping stone for like the genre.
Yeah, I don't think it's like the first, but I definitely think it's something that like pioneered.
It's like the biggest one.
Oh yeah.
When you say Animal House, a lot of people know it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And last bit of trivia for me is that the initial cast was to feature Chevy Chase as Otter, Bill Murray as Boone, Brian Doyle Murray as Hoover, and Dan Aykroyd as D-Day, and John Belushi as Bluto.
Hearing that, that's like, that would have made this movie so different.
It would have changed it completely.
Because it's like a lot of these like a lot of the actors that you just said, literally when they're on screen, they have such a very different chemistry than the people that we saw in Animal House.
Oh yeah.
So like it would have came off so different. I don't know if it would have worked as well though.
I don't think so either. Watching this movie, John Belushi does stand out the most.
Yeah.
Because he's like one of the few people I should recognize. So seeing like a full SNL cast in this movie would have been just way off.
I know. It's like, it would have been cool, don't get me wrong. I think the reason why I liked the way Otter and Boone carry themselves, like how we said, like they don't look like Delta House members. But if you threw Chevy Chase in there, I'd be like, this guy, like you don't fit. I don't think he fits as like a college, like a frat president.
Yeah. I could see like a young Bill Murray
as
Otter, but I can't see a Chevy Chase as Otter.
No, I can't. But yeah, damn, that really would have changed everything about this movie, I think.
Oh, for sure.
Because when you have an all-star cast, that does not mean that's gonna work. You know, because like sometimes you just need to like you need to play to your strengths. And I think having like the people I didn't recognize, I was like, I had no expectations. If you throw a whole Saturday Night Live cast in there, my expectations go through the roof.
Oh yeah.
So if they did that road trip scene the exact same way, I don't know. I think I would have hated it even more. I was like, I hate these actors even more. Like they're not funny in this scene, and they're supposed to be funny all the time.
Yeah. Do you have any more trivia that you would like to share?
No, not that I have anything.
All right. Well, then that just leaves us to one of the last parts. Did you like the movie, and do you think it's a good movie?
That's a tough one. Can I say like I don't hate it? That was okay. Like I give it a 6.
Okay.
Because I think my humor is a little weird, a little off. It doesn't really fit this movie. So if someone likes this like frat boy humor, it's definitely up their wheelhouse. Would I recommend it? Yeah, definitely like to college kids. I think it's because like I watched it in college and I enjoyed it drinking with my friends and stuff. But I don't know. I think like the farther you move away from this movie, kind of like loses the value. I say it's an okay movie. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I know it's a
No.
little long-winded.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with you. I would also give this movie around a 6, maybe like a 6.5. I didn't like it as much as I thought I would
Okay.
watching this for the first time. And that just could be because of my 2022 perspective of comedies.
Yeah.
I think if I would have saw this a lot younger, I might have enjoyed it a little bit more. So I wouldn't say I love it. I also wouldn't say I hate it or dislike it. So I think it just barely scrapes by on the I like it. But even though I don't love the movie, I can see where people come from and how they really love this movie and treasure this movie.
Yeah.
Just because it did influence so many other movies and comedians as time passed by. So just by those facts, I think I will say it's a good movie just because of what it brought to like pop culture.
Yeah. And I think like people like nowadays might not like certain parts of or like facets of the movie and stuff like that. But it is like one of those things that's like it was a different time.
Yeah.
You know. And I think for me, like this movie's a little more like physical comedy.
Yeah.
You know, things are smashing out of windows and like there's like naked chicks and like John Belushi's looking back at the camera and a fourth wall break. And I feel like my humor is like more like quippy
Yeah.
than anything. So I say if you like physical comedy and you like the idea of like the frat house nature and you liked other frat house movies, then definitely watch this one because this one started like the trend, or at least like made the trend more like aware.
Yeah. So I guess just like Delta House, Animal House just barely scrapes on by into
Yes.
a good movie category. So let's find out what we're going to watch for next week.
What do we got on the list?
So on this week's list, we have Clerks, Leprechaun, St. Patrick's Day coming up. We have The Outsiders, never seen that. Shin Godzilla, The Mummy, Super 8, and just because we missed it last week, and we got to give it another chance, we have Scooby-Doo.
It's the live action Scooby-Doo.
It is the live action Scooby-Doo. So let's give this wheel a spin and see what happens. Ooh, Super 8. So close to Scooby-Doo.
I want it back on the list.
We'll add it back to the list next week. All right, so Super 8's next week.
Have you seen the movie?
I have seen that movie. Have you seen the movie?
I've seen it once. I was very sick watching it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm essentially watching it for the first time, I think.
It is very Stranger Things-esque.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say anything. I don't remember liking the movie though.
Oh, okay. I love the movie.
So, but I'm gonna go on with fresh eyes.
Okay, well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I might have to watch this with someone who refuses to accept that they've seen this movie before.
Oh, this is your chance to say that you've watched this movie with them.
I guess so. All right. Well, thank you for joining us again on this podcast with us. If you want to join along next week, be sure to watch Super 8. If you like what you heard, please rate and review us wherever you listen to your podcast. Anything you want to say, Nick?
If anyone out there has a movie that you want us to watch, let us know. We'll add it to the list.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And if it's not in the collection, you know what? I'll go to a Goodwill. I'll try to track that bad boy down, and I'll add it in there just to take it right back out.
Then we'll throw it right back.
All right. Thanks for listening. See you guys next week.
Peace out.
Bye.